is one of those books, like, I'll never be able to unread. I will never be the same person. Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cass, and today we're doing things a little bit differently. I'm still getting over being sick, so I apologize if I sound congested or, have to take breaks. I still have a cough. I'm still not 100%. Also have been bawling my eyes out, which you guys will see. It's coming up. So this is an impromptu reading vlog for this book. And so I didn't turn on my camera until I was already like halfway through the book and had been deeply affected by it. So this is my intro, but after the fact. And the book that I'm reading in this vlog is called One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar El-Akkad. Actually, I'm not saying that right. Omar El-Akkad. I think that's how you say it. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I started in the middle of this book because I didn't realize that I wanted to film a vlog about it. Then it became increasingly more impactful, and I realized that I needed to share this book with you all. It is not by genre a witchy book, but it is a book about being an outcast, about doing the right thing when society is telling you that it's the wrong thing and turning people against you. It's about being willing to speak out even if you're going to be targeted and ostracized. And all of these things I feel like are part of the witchy stereotype throughout time. This book is not super long. It's like so. I listened to it from my library and then immediately ordered myself a copy because I realized that this is a book I'm going to want to reference and read over and over again. Before we get into the shocking story that inspired this vlog, I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit about the book. So the author was born in Egypt and lived near the Gulf during the Gulf War in the 90s. He's my age. We're from the same generation. After his family realized how dangerous it was to be there during the Gulf War, they eventually immigrated to Canada, where he lived out the rest of his childhood, and mainly adolescence, I think. As an adult, he came to the United States and is now a citizen of the United States. His background is that he is a journalist. He's been a political journalist. He's been a war correspondent. He's seen a lot with his own eyes and reported on a lot in his lifetime. He has a lot of personal firsthand experience with some of the issues that he discusses, plus the background of his family. He talks a lot about how, although he's lived in the Americas for the majority of his life at this point, because he has a foreign-sounding name, and especially post 9/11, I think that he's experienced a lot of racism. And he really talks about his experience of being an immigrant that looks like he does, that has a name like he does, how that's shaped his view on the Palestinian war, how it's shaped his view on politics, how it's shaped his whole life. Okay, so actually, let me just read you his bio real quick. Omar is an author and journalist. He was born in Egypt, grew up in Qatar, moved to Canada as a teenager, and now lives in the United States. He is a two-time winner of both the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association Award and the Oregon Book Award for Fiction. His books have been translated into 13 languages. His debut novel, American War, was named by the BBC as one of 100 novels that shaped our world. I have this on my TBR now. His second book, What Strange Paradise, was published in 2021. So those two books that he wrote are novels. I believe they're speculative fiction. This book is not. This book is a nonfiction book, and it's specifically about the war on Gaza. So first of all, I learned a lot listening to him. He is the narrator for the audiobook. So even though I still cannot pronounce a lot of the words properly because it's something I will have to practice, I learned from his narration that it's not pronounced Gaza, it's pronounced Gaza. Like, it's not, we put like an accent in there that doesn't actually belong there. So I'm going to try to say it properly, but I apologize ahead of time if I slaughter it. But I just wanted you guys to understand that I'm not mispronouncing it. I'm trying to actually pronounce it properly. But the inspiration for this book came when, shortly after the Palestinian war started and the attacks on Gaza, he posted on social media this quote, and it's on the front of his book, like on the hardcover. So I took the sleeve off. One day, when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this. His statement garnered so much attention and so much engagement and discourse and conversation that he decided he wanted to use his platform to write about this and to speak about this. So I want to share some of my favorite quotes, but I absolutely could annotate this entire thing, and I plan to, because I listened to the book first and then I just received this book today. Like I had it shipped overnight. So I haven't had a chance to annotate it, but I did go through and mark some of the quotes I wanted to share with you all. But if I had annotated this at the same time that I was listening to it, this thing would be full of annotations. So I highly recommend reading the book and really like being present with it, annotating it if you would like to, and at the very least, like, listen to it, because these passages are just, that I'm going to share with you, they're just a fraction of the profound writing in this book. Okay, so that's the context. I'm going to share with you some of my favorite passages just to kind of help you understand where he's coming from. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I feel like he's pretty politically neutral. He criticizes both sides of the aisle through this book, so it doesn't really matter what your political leanings are, because he's talking to everyone human to human. And politics play a big role, but he's not trying to convince you to change your politics. He's talking to you about the humanity of this entire situation, including the politics. I just wanted to preface it with that. So, for instance, this passage will kind of give you context for the type of political critique he has throughout the book. So he's talking about how political parties attack each other, kind of, I don't know, how we're at a point in our country where we're comparing evils. Don't let the Biden administration's endorsement of mass murder distract you from the reality that a Trump administration would be so much worse. He's talking about the rhetoric that's like being pushed out here surrounding the Palestinian war. That this campaign tactic reemerges every election cycle is a testament to its effectiveness. Of course, the Republicans would be worse. What the mainstream Democrat seems incapable of accepting is that for an even remotely functioning conscience, there exists a point beyond which relative harm can no longer offset absolute evil. For a lot of people, genocide is this point. Suddenly, an otherwise very persuasive argument takes on a different meaning. Vote for the liberal, though he harms you, because the conservative will harm you more. It starts to sound a lot like, vote for the liberal, though he harms you, because the conservative might harm me too. I thought that was very poignant. Also, for context, this book came out earlier this year and was written, obviously, since the war started at the end of 2023. So it's very relevant. He references a lot of events and stories from 2024. And I believe that this was published earlier in 2025. So it's pretty up to date up until this year, I would say, and following Trump getting put into office. So this book is going to be relevant forever. Like, I mean, it's so relevant to genocide, which seems to happen in our world every couple of decades or something. It's like a recurring theme we never learn, but it's extremely relevant right now. And I would recommend, especially if you live in the United States, that you read this book. Then he says, in reality, not a single Western politician or party, not a single government anywhere in the world can be expected to change when constantly rewarded this way. The argument in favor of voting for the lesser evil is frequently made in good faith by people who have plenty to lose should the greater evil win, but it also establishes the lowest of benchmarks. Want my vote? Be less monstrous than the monsters. It's so good. Okay, and then he talks about how a common narrative against immigrants here in the U.S. is to go back to where you came from. And he says, it's a fascinating directive, go back to where you came from. One can't help but wonder how changed the world would be had the ancestors of the same people who used that phrase now heeded the same advice then. Overwhelmingly, it's employed against anyone who tries to make use of the freedoms on which the West so prides itself, the freedom to speak and to criticize, to hold power accountable. In this way, it shares a deep bond with the approach to free expression that can be found in most dictatorships and authoritarian regimes, the places so many immigrants fled. In this way, it shares a deep bond with the approach to free expression that can be found in most dictatorships and authoritarian regimes, the places so many immigrants fled. You are free to say, so long as what you say is acceptable. Whenever I am told to go back to where I came from, I can't help but think, why don't you go back to where I came from? I thought that was very poignant. If we were sent to the countries and the places where these people are trying to get away from, I'm sure that our views on immigration and refugees would change significantly as an American culture. There is an impulse in moments like this to appeal to the self-interest, to say, these horrors you are allowing to happen, they will come to your doorstep one day, to repeat the famous phrase about who they came for first and who they'll come for next. But this appeal cannot, in matter of fact, work. If the people well served by a system that condones such butchery ever truly believe the same butchery could one day be inflicted on them, they'd tear the system down tomorrow. And anyway, by the time such a thing happens, the rest of us will already be dead. No, there is no terrible thing coming for you in some distant future, but know that a terrible thing is happening to you now. You are being asked to kill off a part of you that would otherwise scream in opposition to injustice. You are being asked to dismantle the machinery of a functioning conscience. Who cares if diplomatic expediency prefers you shrug away the sight of dismembered children? Who cares if great distance from the blood-stained middle allows obliviousness? Forget pity, forget even the dead if you must, but at least fight against the theft of your soul. That hit me really hard. I mean, if any of you feel the way I feel, this will hit you. There's like so many mic drop moments in this book. It's crazy. But it's also super insightful. I feel like people who don't know a whole lot about the Palestinian war, what's going on in the Middle East, or what has been going on in the Middle East for my entire life for the last 40 years, and before all of that, who maybe also don't really have that much education about like World War II and the Holocaust, he educates in this book in a way that's like relatable. So this has also sparked my interest in learning more about the ongoing like wars and politics and narrative. And so I've ordered some other books that I'm going to be reading. And this is the thing that I love about reading, is that it sparks curiosity in me. It teaches me things. It makes me think about people other than myself, about circumstances that I can't fathom, that I would never think of on my own. And it helps me have empathy and compassion for people who are different from me, and also helps me to recognize that at our core, we are all very similar. We are all human beings. We all just want love and connection, and we all just want basic human things, which is, I suppose, what the basis of human rights is. But, you know, at the end of the day, we all just want to be safe. We want to be loved. We want to be seen, and we want to be loved. We want to have connection, because we're wired that way as humans. We, of course, need our basic needs met. And in that, we are all the same. And these stories and these books really hit that home. Okay, so I've also purchased A Very Short History of the Israel-Palestine Conflict by Ilan Pappé, I think. That it's a whole series, and I'm kind of interested in reading some of the other books by this author, but this one is very short, but has fantastic reviews, and so I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see what I think and see if it's helpful. So on Amazon, it's rated with a 4.6 average stars, and on Goodreads, a 4.4 average stars. Those are very, very high ratings with thousands of reviews. And if you buy the ebook for 99 cents, you can then buy the audiobook at a discounted price of $5.60. So I think that's a steal of a deal if you want to listen to the audiobook, or if you just want to read it and you don't want to pick up a copy, you can get it through Kindle for $1. Okay. And then the other book that I have on my TBR, that I've actually had on my TBR for a little while, I just haven't gotten to it yet, prior to this book, is called, I think it's called The 100-Year War on Palestine, or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, The 100 Years War on Palestine, which is also highly, highly rated. On Goodreads, a 4.7 average rating with over 4,000 reviews. And this book is available on Kindle Unlimited right now if you use Kindle Unlimited. Okay, so those are two books that I mean, there's tons. There's so many books out there, but those are two books that I am going to try to pick up like very, very soon, so that I can have better context for any future book I read about this war. This author, Omar, he also references Virginia Woolf, a set of essays that she wrote called Three New Guineas, I think is what it's called. The premise of these essays is that we're going back to the, I think, 1940s. I believe it was just speculative. Like, I don't know that, I haven't done enough research, but so I don't know if these essays were in response to a real letter, or if this is like a fictional letter that she's responding to in essays. Nonetheless, the premise is that she receives a letter as an educated woman asking for female insight into war and how the government can prevent war in the future and can prevent these atrocities from happening. I think mainly referencing like the Holocaust, potentially the Great War. Like I said, I didn't research this enough to tell you, but what I did do was immediately after he referenced it in this book, because it's at almost like the end of the book, as soon as I finished the book, I immediately went to go find where this quote came from, and I found out that it came from those essays from Virginia Woolf. The copyright has expired on her work, And so you can get most of her works for free online. You can find them. But I went ahead and found a compilation called The Complete Works of Virginia Woolf on Amazon for $1. I think it was $1 or maybe $1.99. And it's everything she's ever written. And I did that because I already have a Kindle, and I wanted to be able to have an easy reference to it rather than having to like read it online. So after I finished this book last night, immediately picked up those essays and started scanning through them. I haven't finished, but I did read the first essay in completion. And I found a channel here on YouTube that provides the audio for the book just for free. And so I also listened to it while I finished up some things last night. And so I will link that below if you guys want to listen to it. I'll also link the free like PDF that you can download. I'll also link to the ebook compilation that I downloaded last night. So he references these essays with Virginia Woolf earlier in the book, and now he's like circling back to it. So he says, I think of Virginia Woolf's conversation with that lawyer over the images of the war's dead. Okay, so in the essays, she receives a letter petitioning for like the women, the educated women, to provide any insight that the government may have missed about how to prevent war. She's talking with this attorney about it, who is showing her pictures from the war. There's like these awful things going on. And, you know, some of these pictures are like dead children, dismembered people, like just really horrific things, probably very similar to the photos that we can find online right now happening in Palestine. Okay. So he says, referencing back to Virginia Woolf's conversation with the lawyer of those images, she says, I cannot argue with you, cannot convince you of anything, because when you and I look at these pictures, we see fundamentally different things. And that resonated with me so deeply because of all of the political conflict happening right now, not just about Palestine, and how some of us are coming from fundamentally different places, different spaces, different experiences. Sometimes when you're fundamentally so different, it's going to be almost impossible to see eye to eye. Like, we're never going to see from each other's point of view because it's just so different, right? I think there's room for growth. I think there's room for change. And I have absolutely like changed my opinions in the past, politically and otherwise. But when you're like, if you're like on an extreme of one side or like really set in something because of your experience, and then someone from the other side, we're not going to convert the person over to the other point of view. Okay. And so I wanted to know what this was about. And that's what sparked my interest in her essays. And I loved what I've read so far. I am so inspired by Virginia Woolf now. I've never read anything else by her. And now I downloaded that compilation. I want to read all of her works. They're still so relevant to modern day, like the way that she talks about like sexism and inequality and war, politics. I mean, we're talking like almost a century ago, like 80 years ago, these essays were written, and they're still so relevant, which tells me that we haven't progressed as much as a lot of us think we have. So I definitely recommend checking out those essays for starter, and then, you know, any of her works. And if you've read anything by her that you can recommend, please let me know. Like, I'm trying to prioritize what to read and in what order, because she has a lot of works. But anyhow, I love that quote, because at some point you can't argue with everyone. You have to pick your battles. You're not going to be able to convince everyone of what you see. For some of us, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And so there's some things you are never going to change my mind on now. Like, I've come to a place where I see one thing. Perhaps it's because I came from somewhere else before and I didn't see it, and now like it's been unveiled to me. I guess that's where the term woke comes from, right? Like, I'm woke, okay? I can never unsee it. There's certain things you just can't unsee. I mean, he talks about this. Actually, there's a quote about it. He talks about it, but he's talking about literally you can't like physically unsee. But I'm talking about also figuratively. I can't unsee what's happening and what's contributing to it and what the damages are. And I'll never be able to unsee it or look away. I can't look away anymore. So there's some more quotes in here. So I didn't mean to, but that was a perfect segue into this passage, which is, one day this will end in liberation, in peace, or in eradication at a scale so overwhelming it resets history. It'll end when sanctions pile up high enough, or the political cost of occupation and apartheid proves debilitating. When finally there is no other means of preserving self-interest but to act, the powerful will act. The same people who did the killing and financed the killing and justified the killing and turned away from the killing will congratulate themselves on doing the right thing. It is very important to do the right thing eventually. Mic drop. Okay, actually, you know what? I'm going to continue. When the time comes to assign blame, most of those to blame will be long gone. Think about it. Like, hello, Biden and Trump are not going to be around forever. Neither is the Israeli president, neither, like, a lot of the people responsible for where things are at, they're going to be gone. Like, we can't hold them accountable. Like, Hitler died. Like, Hitler never had to be held accountable. He died. So I think this is something to think about. When the time comes to assign blame, most of those to blame will be long gone. There will always be feigned shock at how bad things really were, how we couldn't have possibly known. There will be those who say it was all the work of a few bad actors, people who misled the rest of us well-meaning folks. Anything to avoid contending with the possibility that all of this killing wasn't the result of a system abused, but a system functioning exactly as intended. Man, his words, he just cuts right to it. Whew, okay. Soon enough, it'll come at our doorstep. Even our doorstep in this last coddled bastion of the very civilized world, when one day we will turn on the tap and nothing comes out, and we visit the grocery store and the shelves are empty, and we must finally face the reality of it as billions before us have been made to face the reality of it. But until then, until that very last moment, it's important to understand that this reality is the best way of doing things. One day, it will be considered unacceptable in the polite liberal circles of the West not to acknowledge all the innocent people killed in that long ago unpleasantness. The truth and reconciliation committees are coming. The land acknowledgements are coming. The very sorry descendants are coming. After all, grief in arrears is grief just the same. Entire departments of post-colonial studies will churn out papers interrogating the obliviousness that led us all to that very dark place, as though no one had seen from the beginning exactly what that place was, as though no one had screamed warnings at the top of their lungs back when there was time to do something. One day, the social currency of liberalism will accept as legal tender the suffering of those they previously smothered in silence. He talks about how when it's not affecting you and it's not in your face and it's not, ruining your everyday life and it's not someone you love that it's happening to, that it's so easy to turn away, to forget, to ignore, to rationalize, to be ignorant, and how he's saying that if this doesn't come to our doorstep, eventually we're all just going to move on and forget about what's happening or what happened in Palestine. And then he says, but there will be people who never move on, who to the end of their lives struggle to unsee the image of the body turned to red paste, the child forced to eat animal feed, the bones pushing against the skin, the slow extinguishing of life at the hands of hunger, the older siblings who must tell the younger ones that everyone else is gone, the hastily dug graves vast against the horizon, like goosebumps on the flesh of the earth. And every time they hear a politician profess the supremacy of international law, of human rights, of equality for all, they will hear only the sounds of screaming. And then finally, he does end with hope. It's all pretty depressing, but there is a hopeful message at the end. He talks about how it's kind of like that quote from Mr. Rogers who says, like, when there's bad things going on, you can always look for the helpers. Like, you always can find the good. Like, good people do come out and you can still see good in humanity. And when you see these things, when you pick out the goodness in humanity, he says it's not so hard to believe, even during the worst of things, that courage is the more potent contagion. That there are more invested in solidarity than annihilation. That just as it has always been possible to look away, it is always possible to stop looking away. You guys, this book. Okay, and now I will play for you my reading vlog, the point at which I broke down and felt I had to share this book. Trigger warnings. There is a short description of violence. It is heartbreaking. I am sobbing. I still can't think about this story without breaking down. I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. I think that I will think about the story for the rest of my life. More than anything else, everything he said in here hit me so hard. This is a book that changed me inside. This is one of those books, like, I'll never be able to unread. I will never be the same person. But out of everything that I read, this story will stick with me forever. And I hope it will stick with you as well, which is why I'm sharing it. I don't love having my ugly cry face on the screen for the world to see. I just want you guys to be able to see how sincere I am, that the messages in this book truly resonated with me, that it's something I have conviction in. I don't think that can be faked. And so I wanted to share my real-time reaction with you. so that hopefully you could see my authenticity in this. Because I think there are a lot of people out there capitalizing on tragedy, capitalizing on drama. I think in this world of social media and online platforms, it's very difficult sometimes to decipher who is authentic and who is not. And it is very common for people to use tragedies, significant events, to use these events for their own gain. And that is not what I'm trying to do here. One, I want you guys to know I will never talk about something unless I genuinely care about it. Like, I'm never going to just come on here for clicks, for likes, for whatever, for attention. I only talk about things that I genuinely care about. Two, I want to use my platform, no matter how big or small, to amplify voices that have been silenced. That's what I'm hoping to do by sharing this little girl's story. I decided to read this book tonight. Stray a little bit from my spooky, witchy reads, because I'd heard so many good things about this book, and I had waited for it at the library, and it came in, and I've had it for a while, and it's due back tomorrow, so I decided it's not super long. I decided to go ahead and read it tonight so that I could return it tomorrow. To be fair, I didn't know what this was going to be about exactly. I could have guessed a bunch of things. But the name of this book is One Day Everyone Will Have Been Against This. I knew that it was going to be political. I knew that it was going to be nonfiction. There are so many things going on in the world that, it could have been about one of 30 different really horrible things happening at any given time in the world. But in particular, this has to do with Palestine. I'm still getting over being sick, and so crying is not helping my situation, because I already had congestion and it's making my asthma act up. But I'm gonna try to get through this. I'm not done with the book yet, but I can already tell you it's going to be a 6-star book. It's probably one that I will read over and over again in my life. It's very fascinating because it's the point of view from someone who lived in a place of war, is familiar with the culture there because that's where he's from, and then has lived as an immigrant. He has a very foreign sounding name. He talks a lot about his experience being an immigrant in the Americas, about always having to prove that he is one of us, that he's not a terrorist. It's interesting insight to hear him talk about trying to honor his culture and where he came from, at the same time needing to assimilate to avoid being hated on here, and also just the outright racism that he's always had to deal with for his entire life. Him telling these stories about Palestine is very profound. I'm not going to share too much more because I won't be able to do it justice. But just know this book is worth it, regardless of what your background is or what your political stance is. This is worth the read. Please read this book, because he is a journalist and he has covered. He's been a political journalist. He's been a war journalist. He's very articulate, and his thoughts are very clear, and they make sense. And they're kind of like no bullshit either. Like, he just calls it like it is. Just know that it's not one of those books that like coddles the people, the readers that are reading it. I mean, he really just sets the record straight. There's been so many things that are heartfelt and devastating in this book. I mean, you just have to turn on the news to know. I mean, there's just like what the people are going through in Palestine is just horrific. But with what's going on in the United States right now with immigration and politics and assassination of Charlie Kirk and everyone's kind of like reaction to that, really, you guys, we're so blessed. We're so blessed as white people. Like, if you're a white person like me, if you were born here in America, I mean, nobody gets to decide where they're born, and there's children all over the world born into these war-torn lands, and it's been going on now for, almost 2 years, and so it's really easy for us to become kind of jaded about it. Anyway, so I'm gonna read this passage that really just shook me up just now, if I can get through it. The murder of Hind Rajab was recorded in real time when she called the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, distraught as an Israeli tank approached after the vehicle she was traveling in, which had just been struck by a missile, had killed her aunt, her uncle, and her 3 cousins. She had called for help. She had picked up the phone and begged for help. She cried and said she'd wet herself. She was 5 years old. Her body was later recovered along with her family members next to a burned out ambulance. So an ambulance had come to help and was attacked, I mean, these are war crimes. It's really awful. They came to recover her and her body and her family members after, and there was an independent investigation which found that there were 335 bullet holes in the car she was in. Everybody else was dead. This little 5-year-old girl was in a car with her dead family after a missile hit. Okay, she's already been traumatized, and she's all alone sitting in a car. She sees an Israeli tank coming her way. 335 bullets. Go. Okay. I took a breath, I took a beat, and then I finished the book. I made myself some tea in my little cauldron mug and, washed my face and put on some skincare and put these eye patches on to try to help with like the insane amount of swelling that I had around my eyes and I'm probably going to still have tomorrow. But anyways, hopefully these will help a little bit. They feel good at least. That's good. So I'm actually drinking the tea that I got when I was in Greece. I think it's called Sticky Toffee Rubios or Rooibos. I need to learn how to say that. But anyways, it's really good. It's like so calming and it's like the perfect fall tea. Anyhow, now that I'm a little calmer, I misplaced my phone. What did I do with my phone? Oh my gosh, what's going on with me? I must have left it over by the tea. Okay, so yeah, 6-star book for me. Just loved everything he had to say. I felt like it was super genuine, very educated, very experience-based. Like I said, he's a journalist, so he has seen a lot of things and he has integrity with like the information that he's providing, so it's verifiable. I didn't feel like he was like inflammatory or didn't even feel like he was like super passionate, like, because I get really passionate about my views sometimes. He just seemed very down to earth and kind of like matter of fact, like this is how it is and this is what we need to think about and this is how this is affecting humankind and how it's affecting the world. Here are the things we need to consider and we need to do something about this. So I would like to pick up his other work. I really enjoyed this. I thought he had some really good advice. I have collected a bunch of quotes. I actually borrowed it from the library, but because I love it so much and there were so many nuggets of good wisdom in it, I ordered a copy for my shelf, so I can't wait to annotate that. For now, I just tried to like copy down quotes from the book while I had it. Yeah, so maybe I'll share a couple of those. Yeah, definitely be prepared to be emotional. If you're anything like me, I am very empathic. I take tragedies very hard. I don't cry so much in fiction books because they're fiction. But obviously this book is based on real life and there's real stories. The girl that I told you about was a real little girl who died, and those kinds of things, they hit me real hard. They hit me where it hurts.
Okay, my friends, I lost my outro, so while I take these patches off, thank you so much for being here. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Please let me know if you pick up this book. I just think it's phenomenal, and I think that everyone should read it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.